afternoon. Just a minute after 2. I think we can make a start. Dr. McDonald is here. He just arrived. A warm welcome to all of you, of the honourable members, firstly, at this meeting, and then all our staff members under the leadership of 2 key people, the Minister and the HOD. And to all of you, thank you for your presence. And I note a member of the public over there. And I believe there's another couple of members of the public to arrive. I hope they will make it in time. We had the situation this morning during the education vote that members of the public arrived quite late at the tail end of our meeting, and we hope it's not going to happen on this beautiful Friday. But let's get started. My name is Dan Plato, and I'm going to ask the members first to introduce themselves. First, the members in the House. Honourable Vos, Baku Vos, we start with you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm Honourable Baku Vos, the Mbokoto of this House.
She wants us to note that one. Yeah. Honourable Fry, please.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Christopher Fry. I'm a member of this committee.
We do have 2 members online, Member Kassim and Member Bosman. Please do the same.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Gillian Bosman.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Aisha Kassim. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. And let me ask the Minister and HOD and their team to introduce themselves for the record as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, honourable members, officials, and members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'll hand over to Dr. McDonald for the rest of the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Fernandez.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm Robert McDonald, Head of Social Development, and we're also joined by Mr. Nzwandile Hewo online. So I'll just ask him to introduce himself and then to the rest of the members.
Thank you very much, HOD, through you, Chair. Good afternoon, all honourable members. I'm Nzwandile Hewo, the Chief Director for Community and Partnership Development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon all, Juan Smith, CFO for the department.
Good afternoon everyone, I'm Dean Bali, Director Finance.
Good afternoon everybody, Charles Jordan, Chief Director, Children and Families and Vulnerable Groups. Almost forgot where I come from.
Afternoon, Chair and members, Marion Johnson, Chief Director for Business Planning and Strategy.
Good afternoon, Chair and honourable members. I'm Siam Miftahrin, Director Business Planning and Monitoring.
Good afternoon, Leona Goosen, Chief Director, Social Welfare and Restorative Services.
Good afternoon, honourable members. I'm Zogise Kaba, Director for Restorative Services. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mashinette Jonkerman, Director, Facility Management. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Esther Lewis, Head of Communications.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, honourable members. Annemie van der Renen, Chief Director, Service Delivery Management and Coordination.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, honourable members. Ramila Patel, Director, Operational Management Support.
Thank you so much. May I ask the gentleman from the public, please do the same?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leslie Andrew Sylvester, and I'm from the Heideveld Cluster Health Committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sylvester. And let me just say, I don't think it is necessary, but let me do what we were tasked to do. All participants are advised to mute their microphones. Chat functions are used for points of order only. Participants must raise their hands and identify themselves when speaking, but in our case, it will be done all speaking terms through the Minister and through the HOD. And everybody, I advise everyone to turn off their mic and video when not speaking. That is for the online people. Advise everyone to switch on his mic when speaking. Advise everyone to switch off their mic when done speaking. Please remember that. Thank you very, very much. And at this point in time, we are here for the social development vote, vote 7. And as usual, we ask the Honourable Minister first to make introductory remarks, and the Minister after she has spoken. The Honourable HOD will do exactly the same before we go into the pages. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable members, committee, staff, officials, members of the public. Good afternoon. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to present ourselves before the Standing Committee today. My introductory remarks will be brief, as I believe all members we have all familiarised ourselves with the subject matter before us. In a budget for action speech, the Honourable Minister of Finance and Economic Opportunities stated that as a government, we face strong headwinds. I quote, "Showing this fierce urgency of now will require that we face up to the headwinds ahead of us," unquote. So in light of the Minister's quote, it is important to note that the proposed budget is increasing in nominal terms by 4.05%, from 2.365 billion to 2.460 billion. We are regressing in relation to inflation and the increased demand for services associated with population growth. This is also due to the lagging effect of economic decline associated with COVID-19, rolling blackouts, and global financial instability, amongst others. What does it mean for the department? It means that the department will not be able to provide any material funding to its NGO partners in the new year. The department will have to continue to limit staff appointments and will not be able to expand its staff establishment in response to the growing population, in spite of this being long overdue. Staff have also received below inflation increases, which has triggered union action. In response, that has also impacted service delivery, as you might have seen during the last week. And the department will also have to continue cost containment measures. Honourable Chair, the department has received a number of earmarked allocations to assist with cost pressures, which include 25 million rand as a once-off for food relief, funds to help fulfill vacant social service professional posts on the staff establishment, especially in the crime hotspots as identified in terms of the Provincial Safety Plan. We have also received funds to help sustain and slightly expand key priority services, including child protection, child and youth care centres, gender-based violence, parenting programs, mental health, and homelessness. We have received funds to cover additional costs of diesel for generators to keep our facilities functioning, especially our secure care facilities. Honourable Chairperson, we anticipate that the year ahead is going to be an extremely challenging one, not only for our staff, our NGO partners and stakeholders, but also for members of civil society, given the increased pressures, the growing workload, and the limited resources to meet the needs of our communities in the face of growing poverty, unemployment, and also the failure of SASSA to deliver grants to the most vulnerable timelessly. Sadly, social ills are on the increase, which requires a whole of government approach and a whole of society approach to assist the most vulnerable during this difficult period in our country's history. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. May I ask the HOD to do likewise, please?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. I think the Minister's covered the main issues, so I won't repeat any of that. But I just think I would like to reinforce what the Minister said, and that is we are in for a very difficult year, particularly given that we are seeing quite sharp increases in demand for services in most areas that we provide services in, and I think we've discussed it a lot at this committee previously. We flagged all of those things. Treasury has tried to assist where they can, but they don't have enough money to assist us to the extent that we need to be. So we are going to see increasing problems and shortfalls in service delivery. We're already seeing it, and unfortunately that's going to be an ongoing issue that we're going to try to manage. But I think we have to be honest and upfront about the fact that it's not going to be a smooth year for service delivery or any of the people involved in it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, HOD. Thank you so much, Minister. In relation to what you have said, we will have to do with what we have. That is all we can do. We will have to make it work for the benefit of the people out there. Let's look at vote 7, social development. It starts from page 295, ends at page 322. And from page 223 to 335 are annexures, but we will get to that. Let me then get into the business of the day almost immediately, page by page. We will deal firstly with page 295 to page 302, ask the necessary questions, and then we will take the rest of the pages after that. Honourable members, I'm on page 295. And page 296, you may ask your questions within the category of 295 to 302. I don't see any hands. Baku Force, Honourable Member, you may ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, first I would like to welcome the input by the Minister and note that we don't see their hard work that they are doing in the department, but I have few questions that I would like to pose. Also, the HOD, I don't want to forget that you are working hand in hand with the Minister, and we really appreciate that. But we are here to do service delivery, and service delivery is a hard work, and we have to push and push so that we can reach or we can achieve what we want to achieve. So thank you for doing what you can do, but still we need to push. That's why I have these following questions for you. On page 295, I would like to ask the department with regard to this mission statement, how has the department intervened in the case of Ms. Bless again and her physical challenged son who continue to live in the shack despite, in the abandoned building, despite her subsidy being approved in 2020. Really, we need to put this matter into rest. We need to put this matter into rest. I've been asking the same question, and I would like you to do the follow-up or make sure that you are delegating the right person for this job so that the job can be done. It's not good to see an old woman with his son that is disabled staying in the abandoned building. It really bothers me. And if maybe you have any information, please, you can give us the details. And in the last paragraph of 296, I want to know what is discussed here. It is similar to what the MEC highlighted. Remember in your statement in the app where you said that these factors are widening the pool of citizens that require service of the department. Yeah. So how does the budget respond to these demands, and how are you planning to improve service offered to address social ills and prevent youth from doing drugs and gangs, which is very disturbing. Our youth are destroyed by the drugs, and actually it's an unemployment that make them to do drugs because they don't have anything to do. I would like to know if there is any finance minister that may be allocated. Hence, I see that the minister mentioned that in the budget speech, she allocated over 987 on crime prevention and support program within the department. But how much is the budget allocated for this year and how will be utilized? If I can get that. On paragraph 3, I mean on paragraph 1, page 297, also can the department give us a breakdown of percentage of its expenditure on each of these focus areas that we already mentioned with regards to the department's focus on homeless? What intervention are there and how does the budget respond to the anticipated outcomes of the implementation of the court ruling on eviction of homeless people in the city? And what portion of the department's budget is used on homeless people? On page 300, on paragraph 3, on the victim empowerment, we have always cleared that this program is hugely underfunded, as we always agree, Minister. But I want to understand whether the Minister has asked Treasury for additional funding specific for this program. And if so, what has been response? Secondly, the finance MEC allocate 238 million to fund victim support and 91 million to expand GPV services over MTEF period. How much of these funds will be allocated for this year? Why are these funds not used to bring GPV shelters to working class communities where majority of victims resides? Because when I'm checking on our areas, Minister, if you remember, I raised that in Kayamand you used to have a shelter or a safety house for women, but we are no longer having that due to the taxing. They took the place and replaced the building for utilization of the taxing, so there is none. And we went to Central Karoo, the same thing is happening. Actually, more special in the rural areas and the townships. We have a lack of having shelters for our abused women. And what other services are provided outside the shelter, outside the GPV shelters? And what are other departments spending and programs for GPV? I would like to know, maybe you are working together with other departments like Department of Education, Health Department, because sometimes we have vulnerable children that is involved in the abuse relationship in our schools and so forth. So that's why I'm asking this question. Lastly, Chairperson, I would like to know, out of the 247 additional social workers that will be appointed this year, are any going to be deployed to GPV services? And if not, why not? That was, I think that was my last question.
Thank you.
This is the last. On page 300, paragraph 4, what progress has been made with regard to the drafting and implementation of the Provincial Drug Master Plan? I think that was
thank you. There will be another round, Honourable Member. Let me ask Honourable Kasim, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just have two questions for now. the departmental food relief intervention program that will be taking place in the province, which areas or sites have been identified and funded, or has it been finalized already? As I see, only funded sites will benefit out of the program, or can community organizations who have not been identified and who have an interest also apply for assistance? And then secondly, on page 297, when it speaks to youth being in conflict with the law, what is the current stats for the Western Cape when it comes to youth in conflict with the law? What are the majority of crimes committed by this youth? And is there possibly a list that can be sent before next week that can provide as to where the majority of these youth come from which areas in the province, and which programs are in place to tackle the issues of these youth in those areas identified on that list? And I'm also assuming you would also in that same list, if you do have, how many youth have been saved from gang activity since the implementation of the department's programs in these different communities? That will be my two questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Let us get the necessary responses from the department on these couple of questions first, and then we can ask for a second round. Okay, thank you, Honourable Minister and HOD.
Honourable Chairperson, I think before the department responds, it's just important for me to, and I know we are here to discuss social development, but to just inform the honourable members of the Western Cape Government's recovery plan. The recovery plan is premised on three key anchors. It's jobs for growth, it's safety, and well-being and dignity. So in answer to the Honourable Baku Force's question, are we working together? The well-being and dignity work stream, which is led by myself and HOD Dr. MacDonald, comprises of the Minister of Education and his team, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, the Minister of Health, and the Minister of Agriculture. So that work stream focuses on gender-based violence, bullying, especially in schools, homelessness, poverty. We have an established faith-based leaders program across, and those are faith-based leaders from across the province. We have now had the faith-based, the ecumenical task team reach out to the wellbeing work stream to assist with creating GBV units at each church congregation, because that is often where it starts. And the church has also indicated their willingness to assist government with the challenge of homelessness. So that is a broad overview. I also participate in the safety component of the recovery plan, and that is where we look at the protection orders and all of the other components that is linked to VP. But we do have a chief director here who can talk to where our shelters are located, how and why things happen. And then, of course, unemployment, which is a key trigger, is addressed in jobs to growth and also as part of the recovery plan overall. So I want the members to understand that whilst we are presenting as a department, we now work in government transversally, and we present to Cabinet on a transversal approach to certain key issues. Dr. MacDonald and the team, I think, will be able to explore the deeper questions that have been asked, but I trust that that provides context to how we are working as a government post-COVID going forward. Thank you, Chair.
So the buzzword here is you don't work in silos, you work transversally. Others, Dr. MacDonald, you can assign any question to any of your staff members.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think the starting from the top, there was a question about Ms. Bless. I'll ask Mr. Jordan if you'd like to give some feedback on that case.
I just need to make sure, because there was two cases that member Baku Force referred to me last year, December. Is it Cynthia or? Yeah, Cynthia. Okay, so honourable member, we have contacted Cynthia's child, the daughter, Tembela. So we talked to her on the phone and actually started WhatsApping with her as well. So their concern is the brother, that's 33 years of age, who is the son of Cynthia. So what Tembela has indicated to us is that they need housing, because the building that they're currently living in is a municipality's building with no electricity and stuff. So it is a housing matter. So what we have done at that stage is also refer it to the municipality, but no response. And then also I have asked that Witzenberg APD, Association for Physically Disabled People, must assist the brother and the family if they need any further interventions. So that has happened, and I've got the evidence here because I've seen all the correspondence that was done with Tembela. What I would want to do is just to follow that up again about if Witzenberg APD is providing the services as requested. So I will just double make sure about that. But we did make contact with the family, and we did talk to the daughter, Tembela. Safile, I think is her surname. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Maybe we should just not record these names in an open forum, given the privacy considerations. But yeah, I think that's the only downside of discussing these things. This is cases of people.
Yeah.
But there was also another case, Chairperson, through you, that the Honourable Member Baku Bakafos mentioned at the previous sitting, which was a couple of weeks ago, of a person in Stellenbosch who'd been waiting 8 years for a foster grant. I'd just like to remind the member about that, because I did request if we could get more details on that as well, because we'd like to follow that up as well. I think I did give my contact number. If you can, just a reminder about that one as well, because that matter was concerning to us. It's a long time for that to be outstanding. The second question from Honourable Member Baku Bakafos about the widening the pool of citizens we reach through our programs, particularly youth at risk, and how do we how does the budget deal with that? I think the Minister has spoken a little bit about the way the budget is focusing on hotspot areas. So the intention is to try to achieve some efficiency by targeting areas where the need is greatest and targeting services in accurate ways, so we get the best outcome from what we do have, because we don't have enough to get to cover the whole province really well. So we have to make sure that we put our resources in the places it's needed the most, and make sure that there's no waste in resources and no people sitting around with small caseloads while there's other people with huge caseloads. So the idea is to focus around the hotspots and improve our data on where crimes are being committed. And the safety plan has got the whole Hector system that is pulling in information on murders and contact crime, as well as GBV and so on. What we've added to that is we're now starting to collect and collate that with data from our systems as well, in terms of youth in conflict with the law, youth in our facilities, as well as substance abuse program, all those kind of data to look where the needs are and focus on getting our services where the needs are greatest. So the idea is to work smarter and use data to help us target our interventions as well as possible. But we are also getting extra funds for filling more of our posts. There's the 247 posts that was mentioned. Those posts are going to be primarily focused in hotspot areas where they're needed most. That this should help us a little bit in terms of dealing with the pressure. But having said that, we also have to work together with the SAPs. With the SAPs have got some joint interventions going on to address gangsterism and school safety, and we are part of those structures, and we are working with the SAPs as well as the municipalities in terms of the deployment of LEAP officers and so on. So we try to use a force multiplier effect by working with the other departments. The amount of the budget allocated for crime prevention and how will it be utilized? The allocation for crime prevention, there's a very narrow allocation which is specifically for social crime prevention, and that's for probation and diversion services. So that pays for the diversion programs for people who diverted from criminal courts into those programs. And that usually goes, or majority of that goes to NGOs that run diversion. And then also we have funds that's not included under the transfers budget for crime prevention, and that is our own local office probation officers who also do crime prevention work. And then there's the broader crime prevention work that is being done by the secure care facilities for youth in conflict with the law and so on. So the total amount we can give you, it's in the budget here for social crime prevention, but there's a lot more than just that budget. And so to give that full breakdown, I don't know if anyone's at this point has got that figure ready to hand, but of course we do have the figure for the transfers, but that's just for the NGOs. That doesn't include our spending in the regions. The also the utilization of crime prevention, if you look at crime prevention more broadly in the safety plan's response to crime, our child protection system is also very important in that respect, because we assist children who are at risk, and so we're trying to reduce contact crime against children and contact crime committed by children in particular. So we have a broad spread of services that speak to crime prevention. In terms of the question from the Honourable Member Baku Foss about the breakdown of the percentage of spend in each of our focus areas, as set out in paragraph 1 on page 297, I think, I don't know if we've done a breakdown in this document. I don't know if you, one would like to hazard a response to that question.
Okay, through you, Chair. Yeah, just in terms of those focus areas, the youth, we are basically sustaining youth development at about 14 million rand. And then for EPWP as a focus as well, we've received a conditional grant from National for 4.8 million as a once-off. Older persons, we are also sustaining 235 million into the new year. And then our disability program has increased by 4% to about, I'll just get the figure, 164 million in itself. And then we also received some new funding for GBV of about 9 million. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, CFO. I think also to say again, there's also services being rendered in the regions that are a little bit more difficult to quantify what they're doing, because their budget is a budget for their office and the staff. So disaggregating those amounts is a lot trickier because the staff do multiple functions. So one social worker will do GBV work and child protection and so on, and it's hard to split up how much money that equals between the different functions, but this is specific to the transfer budget. The question about from Honourable Member Baku Foss around homelessness, I think one of the responses of the department to the coming evictions has been to increase the funding to bed spaces in homeless shelters to make provision for those people who have nowhere to go. As well as the 18 million is not reflected in our actual budget for this department in terms of our income, but it is reflected in that it goes to public works for the necessary alterations to the Tafelberg creche site to become a homeless shelter, and that's the alternative site since the Robbie Nurok site is not suitable. So that project will also create additional bed spaces in the CBD area for people who have had to move off pavements and streets and public spaces into a shelter. Of course, the City of Cape Town is also providing about 300 additional bed spaces as well in the CBD through the expansion of their safe space too. So between social development in the province and the City of Cape Town social development, there is an increase envisaged of about 400 bed spaces in the short term to try and accommodate more people who have nowhere to go, and also to help them to return to a home eventually. The question regarding how much of our budget is spent on homeless adults. The total amount now is, does someone have the number for transfers for homeless adults?
Yeah, through your chair, again, it's all inclusive in our sub-program for families, and there we have seen from the transfer side that there's an increase of about 7 million for the total sub-program of families, and this will include the homeless as well.
I think it's about a 1.2 billion to 1.2 million additional for homeless, specifically earmarked for homeless adults, if I'm not mistaken. But that's on top of the existing budget for homeless adults, which is in the region of 30 odd million. And then we do have also the 18 million as well, which is being placed as capital once-off amount that's gone to Transport and Public Works for the CBD shelter, and that's for capital works. In terms of the question from the honourable member around the victim empowerment program, I think as the CFO has mentioned, there is an additional 9 million for GBV in this financial year, which is one of the biggest increases of all the programs. And that will assist us in terms of the additional, we're hoping to have additional Tutuzela care centres established in partnership with health. So we provide, and the question was about whether we work with other departments. Yes, we do. We provide the trauma counselling and support services at Tutuzela care centres, while health provides the medical interventions and examinations, and then the NPA provides the prosecution services. So it's a three-way partnership between social development and health and NPA. And then also we do work with other departments in an integrated way in terms of the GBV NSP implementation plan for the province, which integrates the work of all departments in the province around GBV. And I think we have brought that here or given it to the committee previously, and we've been updating that plan now. So we've added some additional measures, but there's a whole aspect around police oversight that's included in there, particularly to try and leverage more victim-friendly rooms, as well as to work with the SAPs to improve the ability of the SAPs to respond to victims. And we assist with that as well, where required in terms of training and so forth. The department does also render, in addition to shelters, we do also render trauma support services, both through our local offices and through funded NGOs that operate in communities. So that's in addition to the shelters themselves. The shelters, in terms of where they are placed, I think we did provide the committee with a list, but if we haven't, I don't know if I think we have, yes, but we can do so again. But I'll ask Ms. Corson maybe to speak to that briefly.
Yes, we've recently provided the list of where they are. The most of the shelters are in the metro, but we have, as you know, we've opened the 6 new shelters that covers Eden Karoo, Hesekwa, as well as the West Coast. We are trying to expand in Caledon, subject to the municipality being able to evict the persons currently using that space. And then in terms of the question regarding Kayamandi, a business plan was provided and a site visit was conducted, but we received nothing back. But there is a shelter that are servicing beneficiaries from Kayamandi and in the broader Stellenbosch also, which is the Labrie shelter. And then the next Tutuzela Care Centre is also earmarked for Stellenbosch in partnership with Medicross as well as Department of Health and the NPA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. And I think also to say that the shelters are generally not situated everywhere we would like to have them, but we've certainly expanded them significantly in the last few years, so that there's much better spread than there used to be 5 years ago. I think also to say that you don't always necessarily want a shelter to be right in the area where the perpetrators are. It's not always the best option. But I think we've got still, we'd like to see more expansion if we can, but it is obviously difficult right now with the finances being what they are. Yeah, the rural areas is a challenge still, and there's definitely a need for more. The other question from the honourable member about whether some of the 247 social service professional posts are going to be deployed to focus around GBV. Yes, they will be certainly doing that, particularly also in the hotspot areas where we mentioned earlier. At least 50% of the additional posts is going to be in service of the hotspot areas, and our role in the hotspots areas is very much around GBV. What progress has been made in terms of drafting and implementation of the Provincial Drug Master Plan? I don't know if Ms. Goosen, you'd like to speak to that item. The progress on implementing the Provincial Drug Master Plan.
Michelle is driving that from the MEC's office, and I know that she has set up engagements regarding the further rollout of the plan in the province. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, the plan. We've got a updated provincial master plan that's been signed off now, in line with the updated national master plan, and it is in the implementation process. And we've got 18 municipalities that are currently implementing local drug action committees that report back into the Provincial Substance Abuse Forum, which is chaired by Ms. Pepper in the MEC's office. And in terms of the plan, there's a whole lot of services and things that are also being rolled out, both in Department of Social Development and other departments as well. But I think as with the services for GBV, we don't necessarily have coverage everywhere we might like to have it, because there's just not enough funds. So there's some areas of our province which are not as well serviced as we would want them to be. But I think that there are a lot of services available in the areas where the need is high in the hotspot areas, certainly. So we are able to cover most of the hotspot areas in terms of access to services. The big gap still is enough space in residential treatment for youth and under 18s. But we have introduced treatment programs in our secure care child and youth care centres, so at least that does provide additional space for under 18s, because there's a huge need there. In terms of the progress, okay, so that's the last of the questions from Honourable Member Baku Vos from that round. Then we go to the questions from Honourable Member Kasim. The question of food relief and whether community organisations not yet involved, whether they can apply to be involved. I will ask Mr. Hewu to speak to that process, if he can do so.
Thank you, Jody. The process in which we invite organizations to apply for services on behalf of the department, we run a call for proposal. The reason why we were able to get the organizations that are currently assisting is when we were operating under the emergency regulations during COVID-19, and there is no other opportunity that will open. We'll run the call for proposal in June, July 2023, and if there are funds, and we'll invite new organizations to assist. At the moment, that is not possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hewu. I think also the question was, apart from the formal applications for funding, because we have NGOs that apply to be funded directly, but then there's several hundred community kitchens that receive ingredients. And I think the question is also how they can try, or how community kitchens can try to be linked to one of the funded NGOs to receive ingredients. Is that something that is also, do you have a process for that?
We do have, just that given the available budget, the NPOs that we have sourced to assist are not in a position to take new kitchens because they are unable to deal with the ingredients for the existing kitchens. The process was the kitchens were asked to go to our DST local office and register and indicate their existence, and our colleagues from the local office will go and verify that. That process is fairly underway just for database gathering, so that if we do get the resources, we know that there are MPOs that are willing and able to assist when the resources are available. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ewu. And then the second question from Honourable Member Kasim was what the crime stats were for youth in conflict with the law, as well as a breakdown of the crimes, where the crimes are occurring, or where the convicted and sentenced and awaiting trial youth are coming from, and which programs are in place for them. I'll ask Ms. Goosen to speak to that question. Thanks. Is your speakers not working properly there? Oh. Okay, I'll have to say it louder, sorry. The question was, what are the crime stats for youth in conflict with the law, as well as what is the breakdown of crimes, where do they come from, and which programs are in place for them to assist?
Thank you. In terms of community-based crime prevention interventions, we are assessing around 3,650 children annually who are in conflict with the law. And as we've recently seen, there's quite an equal spread currently of where they come from. We would expect that they only come from the hotspot areas, which there is the most significant part come from there, but we see also growth in terms of Knysna, Oudtshoorn and Beaufort West, Beaufort West is a hotspot area. Then in terms of working with children that are at risk of coming in conflict with the law, there's about 3,200 children that we actively work with, and then 850 children in secure care centres in conflict with the law. Our interventions is focused on prevention on school-based programs, and then also in terms of diversion programs and holiday programs, and then also focusing on parolee supervision for adults that youth that enters into adulthood, and reintegration of them. In terms of residential care facilities, as the secure care, they're placed there for a whole period of time, and then during that period they receive the holistic services from education, skills development, and then also sports activities and so on. So that is where the bulk of the children come from. We see a growing number of children that is not yet in conflict with the law, but are displaying behavior that can be viewed as criminal. And to that extent, we experience little tolerance from the communities to accommodate those children, and a growing demand in terms of secure care for those children. And that's also the area where we focus in terms of our substance prevention programs, as well as our community-based intervention programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That's what I have question-wise.
Thank you for that. Before I open the next round of questions, I pick up online two more honourable members. Just for the record, please identify yourselves. Honourable Windvogel and Honourable Lekker, please. Members, can you do that, please? Identify yourself for the record. They can't hear me. Honourable Bosman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Chairperson, loud and clear.
I think then the rest must be able. Honourable Kasim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you too.
Honourable Kasim can hear. Honourable Windvogel, can you hear me? No, she can't. Honourable
Yes, comrade. Chairperson.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, Honourable Lekker, can you hear me?
Chairperson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much. I just want to check if Honourable Lekker can hear me.
Oh, sorry, Chair.
No, Honourable Lekker can't hear me. Okay, that is then all fine. Honourable Van Vogel, you are the next person with the next round of questions. The floor is yours. Thank you.
No, Chair, I don't have question on the previous pages, but I'm not sure, I miss you somehow. I'm not sure, did we move to page 301?
We are still within page 301 and before. Let's leave it for now. If you don't have any questions on these couple of pages, Honourable Kasim, I see your hand is up again. You may.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to get back to the issue of street children, not necessarily street children, but what is being done by this department in terms of the issue of children, rather, who are forced to take to the streets by their parents to collect money on behalf of parents who will then sometimes use that money to entertain their drug habits. If you look at places like Athlone, Manenberg, and Nova Park, among other underprivileged areas, the same underage children are on the streets daily from the morning till late at night, while parents watch from a distance. And it is quite concerning, as children have been knocked over in the past. And it's also concerning when we look at the issue, or the increase rather, of kidnapping and human trafficking in the country. So how often do the department go out to these areas to intervene or to speak to these parents and these kids? And then secondly, what is being done in terms of unplaced children? When I speak about unplaced children, I'm referring to children who are not in schools and who are walking the streets daily. Are there any programs to keep these kids busy and off the streets? That will be the only two questions for now. Thank you.
While that is linked to the previous question, could you quickly deal with that, HOD? Honourable Van Vogel, just a moment. I will be with you right now. The previous question, the questions now of Honourable Kasim is linked to a previous questions. I want the HOD quickly to deal with that.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The department has a responsibility to respond to. Yeah.
So they can hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to get a bit closer. The department does have a responsibility to respond to reports of street children and assist where they pick this up. It's not a straightforward thing because when children are on the streets with their parent or caregiver, there is case law already where the courts have found that the social workers can't just remove the child summarily. They'd need to go through a court process, and that it makes it very difficult because those children then often gone by the time the social worker is able to actually try and do something with them. If a child is alone, then the social workers have the standard procedure that they've been given is that they pick up the child with the assistance of SAPs. Usually they need to have, or sometimes the Metro Police, to assist them in picking up the child and taking them through to a secure care facility to be placed there. We have picked up probably over 100 street children in the past few years, and they, some of them are able to be very successfully assisted and rehabilitated and placed into foster care environments. But unfortunately, there are quite a few of the street children who they return to the streets every time, even though they go through the programs. So it's a very tricky area to work with. We do fund a number of organisations that assist, like the Western Cape Street Children's Forum, as well as the Homestead that provides drop-in centres to try and assist in getting these children back to some level of stability in their lives. But it also depends on the individual circumstance of the child as to how best to assist them. If a child is being sent out to get drug money for the parents, then for us that would be a very clear case of a child being abused, neglected, and the child would need to be assisted in terms of the Children's Act as being in need of care and protection. Also, children who are abusing substances on the street and glue and so on would then also be needing assistance from the department. So that is our role, and we do also work with the SAPS and Metro Police and Traffic. We've trained them around how they can work with us, who to call, all of those things if the street child is identified, and then we can step in and assist. What makes it quite difficult as well is sometimes the street children work in large groups, and then we have to try and deal with each one individually, because where we've previously tried to bring in a large group of children, we've done a few times, the SAPs have done operations where they bring in a whole lot of children in the back of the van. Generally, when those children get to the court, the children's court, to go through the children's court process, they run away. They escape because there's too many of them. So we do have to deal with them in small groups or individually. Also, we have found that when we brought in the children into our secure care environment, they have been we've been able to work with them. Where the children are placed in non-secure homes, they run away. So they have to, usually hardened street children, they really need to be brought into secure care. And we do have limited space there as well. So sometimes that can be a bottleneck for us. We are busy expanding the capacity of our secure care facilities so we can take more children in. But that is a multi-year process, and there is money in the budget, you will see, for the expansion and renovation of this child and youth care centre. So it's an ongoing area of work for us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, HOD. Honourable Kasim, you heard the detailed explanation from the HOD side. Are you comfortable? Are you okay with the answer?
I'm okay for now, yes. Just one more thing before. As I stated earlier, is it possible before the budget vote next week, before we give our actual response, if we can have like a detailed report of even the list that I requested earlier as well, in terms of the different areas and the different programs and how much is being spent? If we can have that before next week, please. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Honourable Kasim. Honourable Windvogel, you may go.
Chair.
We can hear you. Thank you. You may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Before, I just need some clarity, Chair. Were you saying that the last page was 300 or 301? I just need clarity there.
302.
Or 302. Okay. Then Chair, my question is on the CNDCs on page 301, paragraph 1. Point of reference, as continued support was provided to food insecure households through the provision of food relief interventions at the 111 CNDs or CNDs and distribution points. So firstly, how will the decreased budget for food relief affect the number of beneficiaries? And then secondly, in terms of the operations at CNDs, how are we planning to improve the functioning of these centers? For instance, in December holidays, CNDs are closed, leaving a lot of beneficiaries stranded. How can we bring innovative measures to assist the beneficiaries during such period? Then secondly, Chair, on the Youth Cafe, page 301, paragraph 3. The Youth Cafe are a good initiative that we must admit, but there is a need to expand these to other areas. And we know there's 12, and 12 is not enough. APP shows that they will remain 12 over the MTEF period. Is there a plan to increase the number over the medium to long term? Then what programs are carried out in these youth cafes to provide alternatives to substance and drug abuse? And do we have a consistent number of attendance in them by youth people? Then the last one, Chair, is that on page 302, procurement, sanitary dignity project. On that project, it has been established that there is a greater need to also assist young girls who are out of school. Are there measures that can be taken to accommodate the vulnerable women? met die other vulnerable women, and has the MEC raised this matter with the counterparts? Can the province allocate additional funding or use equitable sales to expand to the program? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Windvoerder. Let me check, Honourable Fry, nothing from your side for now. Honourable Bosman, nothing from your side?
I'm good, thank you, Chairperson.
Good, okay. Just one or two issues from my side. Back on page 296, I pick up your reference to issues such as inadequate access to food remains high in the middle of the report, and then you also households at risk of food insecurity. You had Honourable Windvoerder on page 301 again the issue around food security, and then also here in the middle of the report, I think paragraph 1, 2, 3, child stunting, and then the issue about malnutrition. It seems to me that food insecurity is becoming a major headache, a major problem. Am I right? Is it the case, and what is government as a whole doing about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. The question from Honourable Member Windvoerder around CNDCs, I'll ask Mr. Hewu if he can hear.
Yes, Chair. Through you, Chair, I can hear you perfectly, HOD. On the CNDCs, yes, we acknowledge that there is a decreased budget, but in our planning processes, we made sure that the decreased budget do not affect our ability to render services at the identified CNDCs that we have already working with. The decreased budget will affect our support to community-based kitchens. We will not be able to provide the support for the entire financial year. We were discussing this just before in the MENCO before this one to say how do we deal with the decreased budget. We had agreed that we need to look at maybe reducing the number of feeding days from 5 now to 3 or 2 so that we can stretch the budget a little longer. So indeed, the community-based kitchens that we're supporting through the NPOs we have contracted are going to suffer very badly on this. And then the beneficiaries that were supported by these kitchens are going to suffer badly. On the CNDCs, yes, we acknowledge that during weekends they are closed, they are not opening. We did when we had a budget, even now we're going to do the same. During the December period, we do make sure that we distribute the food parcels to the households that are served by the CNDCs so that those households continue to have food during the festive season. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hewu. We'll also say that last year we temporarily got an additional 25 million rand from the Provincial Treasury in the adjustment period for the last 3 months of the financial year. That enabled us to temporarily expand the amount of food relief provided. Now this year we are going back to the level we were at before we received that extra 25 million. So it does mean then we have to reduce the number of days that we are able to provide food to what it was before we got the extra 25 million in the adjustment budget. So that is going to impact the beneficiaries as Mr. Hewu has outlined. The question from Honourable Member Windvoerder about the youth cafes and the need to expand, we would like to. It's just, of course, that we are sitting now with no increases really, except in a very few areas like EBV and child protection. So we're not in a position at the moment to expand youth cafes. If we can in future, it'll be great, but I think right now in the financial situation we're in, the best we can do is try to sustain the ones that have already been established. I don't know whether Mr. Hewu has any comment on the question about attendance.
Well, thanks for you, Chair. Yes, we do monitor the attendance at each of these youth cafes, and it continues to increase. And because the young people are attracted by the programs that are on offer, there are a number of programs which enabling young people and link them with other opportunities, like the opportunities available on the job market, like opportunities available in terms of bursaries and short-term employment, and just opportunities to link with other young people and share ideas on what opportunities are available to shape their future. So as a result of that, there's a lot of attraction to come to the youth cafes. Also the space, because it is a cozy space, it is, in terms of the language used by the young people, it's a grand space for them. It's only dedicated for them. They are not competing like we used to do during the multi-purpose centers, where there will be a wedding, a funeral, and so on, and young people are forced to go away. So there's a lot of attraction, and we keep the registers, and then that's why we are able to know that we are reaching the figures that we have planned beyond our level of appreciation. However, in terms of the under normal circumstances, because there are many young people coming in who will be expanding, because of the budget, as the HOD has explained, we are unable to expand youth cafes to other areas. The ideal is to have a youth cafe in each and every municipal town, but because of the budget and the inability of municipalities as well to partner with the Department of Social Development, we are unable to expand the youth cafes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ewu. And then the question about the expansion of the Sanitary Dignity Project to girls outside of the schools. Maybe you could just speak to where we are with that.
Thank you, Judy. Through you, Chair. The Western Cape government resolved to roll out the sanitary dignity only to school-going girls. Nationally, it proposed that we look at quantiles 1 to 3. We had agreed that we want to look at all quantiles because we recognize that even in fee-paying schools, there are children that are coming from indigent backgrounds that we needed to take care of. So what we did, we worked with the Western Cape Education Department and requested them to identify the schools with high rate of absenteeism amongst girls, with the assumption that the girls are absent because during the times they are in periods, they are unable to go to school because of the lack of sanitary pads. So we have dedicated our budget to the schools, and it's only we are unable even to go to all the schools that are qualifying to be supported because the budget is so much. And when we had a little bit of surplus, we extended the service to child and youth care centers, the needy ones, where young girls have actually shown some experience of needs in this area. So that's where we are now. With the more budget, if it can be available, and if we are able to cover all the schools that we intend to cover, we'll definitely roll out to other needy girls, indigent girls. But at the moment, we are directed and by the budget, and the budget can buy us so much. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you, Mr. Ewu. Yeah, that's a conditional grant from the national level. Then in terms of the Honourable Chairperson's question about the food insecurity and malnutrition, I think the food security is a transversal priority in the province. It's being led under the Wellbeing and Dignity priority area of the recovery plan. And it's led by the Department of Agriculture, but Social Development is a contributor and supporting department. Data on the food insecurity, the socioeconomic index and malnutrition is collected by the team and monitored. So if we look at malnutrition, there was a spike earlier last year of malnutrition among under fives. That was a big concern. That came back down again to pre-COVID levels. And at the moment, we're still monitoring the malnutrition information, but there's a lot of information or a lot of potential food insecurity that isn't necessarily picked up in the malnutrition data. So malnutrition data is showing us the most extreme cases, but food insecurity does remain a very high concern. If we look at the poverty index, we've got a sense of where things are headed, and generally people are getting poorer. The GDP or per capita is going down. So in real terms, people are getting poorer, and food is getting more expensive. So we are definitely concerned about food insecurity. There's some rural areas in particular that have been severely affected. I think now of places like Huku Valley and Kanaland, where farms closed down, and we ended up with a lot of farm workers out of work, and they are in a dire situation. But also in a lot of other parts of like Murraysburg, the small towns in rural areas are all quite vulnerable. And also in the metro, I think we must also bear in mind that a lot of municipalities and other organizations were doing food security support during COVID. That's stopped now. Those were temporary measures. So we are also now sitting with less access to food aid in the system than was there before. DSD has carried on with what it's doing. And of course, SARS has continued with their COVID grant. But yeah, it's an area of concern to us. I don't know whether anyone would like to add from the side on the subject. But we've together with Agriculture and .P, we've developed a map where we are basically identifying where the geo-mapping of food insecurity as well as food security interventions.
Before you give to one of your officials to add to what you have said, HOD, I just want to quickly move to it link to what I want to get from the department. I think you made a bold statement. It's a massive statement to say it's a major problem, farms closing down and that sort of thing. People don't have food to eat. On page 301 at the top, the very first paragraph, I want to get to the 500 sentence number 2, as well as the 512 community kitchens supported by the department. It's very good. It's astonishing to see that the department are doing something. Over 100,000 qualifying beneficiaries were able to access cooked meals and food parcels. Another bold statement. The soup kitchens, is it spread over the whole province? Or is it mainly situated in the metro?
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, it's spread over the whole province. I'll also bear in mind as well that we're doing our work alongside ECDs, which feed 80,000, 70,000 children a day, as well as schools. The school feeding scheme, of course, is reaching about, I'm not sure how many exactly, but it's about 500,000 learners a day. So we are supplementing and filling in the gaps in a sense where existing systems aren't necessarily covering. But I'll ask Mr. Hewu if he can just speak to where the CNDCs and the community kitchens are.
Yeah, thanks. I think HOD you have covered. It is province-wide, and it's in all municipal districts and municipalities. We do have these kitchens across. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hewu. Yeah, so we've got it in all the municipal areas.
Thank you very much. Honourable Fry? Honourable Van Vogel, is that a new hand? Please, you may go. She struggled to connect.
Thanks.
You may go.
Yeah, I just want to know from the HOD, you mentioned that you do have programs in all the different municipalities. Because I'm not aware of any program in Swellendam municipality, but what I know, there is NGOs who are driving food kitchens. So if you are saying municipalities, are you saying that Swellendam municipality receive money for such a project? Then secondly, Chairperson, I just want to check on page 303. with regards to the employment of social workers. What is the number of unemployed social workers in the province as of today? And how does this budget respond to the demands of employment of social workers? And what has been done about calls to deploy social workers to schools? And has the department engaged the WCED in this regards? Thank you so much, Chair.
Okay, Honourable Fry? No, nothing. Okay, let me, from my side, once again, I just want to pick up on a couple of other, what I regard as important issues as well, and certain entities listening and that sort of thing wanted to know, did we raise and did we ask the necessary questions on page 298, second paragraph from the top. Further, the last sentence, the department supports initiatives to address the harmful effects of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder in children. Now, that is a problem. We need to recognize it as a problem. What else are you doing with regard to that issue, with what you are doing already? What else is installed? And then on page 299, unfortunately, you're at the cold face of the situation in communities and in vulnerable communities, poverty-stricken communities and that sort of thing. Aligning department budgets to achieve governmental prescribed outcomes. That very first sentence, empower the poor, the vulnerable and those with special needs. Obviously, you won't be able to do that alone. And I want to couple that to this, to the lower down paragraph, I think 234, building family and community resilience is key departmental priority. The aim is to reduce the vulnerability of families at risk by developing and providing evidence-based interventions for parents, caregivers, and families. How are you getting that right? How are you doing that? What we see, we many a times don't take note of it. We many a times don't see what you are doing, and how are you marketing yourself with regard to what you're doing. There's always a sense when we attend meetings, community-based meetings, they will always complain, we don't see government, we don't know what government are doing, but reading these reports, government is actually doing an awful lot. And then if I can take it further, and then on page 300 in the middle, the third paragraph, over 17,900 victims of GBV access psychosocial support services. What are we talking about? Psychosocial support services. We discussed it this morning during the education debate as well, but I would love to hear your answer pertaining to that. And the outcomes of the Provincial GBV Summit. What was the outcomes of that? That is a sentence here in the middle, and it was a large amount of people attending, 1,500. And then there's another referral to alcohol fetal syndrome. Then I somehow want to get at page 301. Child protection services will be strengthened with community-based and early interventions. It's similar to the question I asked already, but you raise it again, but it's important that you raise it again just to give a clear indication that it is a major problem. But then the department will also continue to support the operation of the 26 funded GBV shelters across the province. Are they in operation? Are they doing what they are supposed to do? That we are aware of the 26 funded GBV shelters. And I think leave it for now. Thank you. You may answer.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honourable Member Winvogel asked about these programs in Swellendam. I'll ask Mr. Ewu if you could speak to that.
Thank you, Jody. Through you, Chair. I think the Honourable Member misunderstood HOD. What we were saying, Honourable Member, was the community-based kitchens that are supported by the department. You will find them province-wide. They are in all municipal districts and in most municipalities. There is one in Swellendam that is supported by. There's a one kitchen that is supported by the current intervention. We are not talking about any other form of support to municipalities. We're talking about the support we are giving to existing community-based kitchens to sustain their services and feed the vulnerable people in those areas. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Hewu. Yes, we don't provide the money through municipalities themselves, but it's in the municipal areas. The second question from Honourable Member Windvogel was about the unemployed social workers in the province. We do keep a database of the social work graduates who are not yet employed, and wherever there's opportunities, we send them adverts and things like that, for example, from NGOs, so that they have an opportunity to apply. And we are also in the process of continually recruiting them into the department, because it enables us to actually increase our capacity slightly by having them appointed in the department to work back their 4-year obligation, and then they can help with our otherwise limited numbers of social workers on our establishment. But we don't keep a database of all unemployed social workers in the province. We keep a database of the social workers who have had bursaries in terms of the national government bursary program, and that database is the one that we use. Most of them are employed now. They often, we contact them to apply for jobs at DSD, and they've already got a job at a NGO or somewhere else, but we do still have some of them who are still not yet employed. I don't know if Ms. Patel, you'd like to add?
Thank you, HOD. Yes, just to confirm what has been said, that our database is limited to the social work graduates who have been provided with bursaries by us. The current number that we have on our database is 319, and as HOD has already indicated, often when we contact them, because we need to try to at least place some of them, that often they are already employed elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patel. I think the Education Department has their own system for social workers. They have about 50 or 80 social work posts. So they're not a major employer of social workers in the province compared to social development or the NGO sector, which is probably the biggest. But certainly we assist any department that approaches us if they need us to get messages to these people. We can't share that list with people or NGOs because of the papaya requirements, so we can't share those names of people without permission from each and every one of them. But what we do then is instead we send things to them because we got them on a database. In terms of the chairperson's question about the FAS initiatives, what do we do in relation to FAS? We do fund organizations like FAR-SA, Foundation for Alcohol-Related Research, among others that do work on farms, awareness work with women on farms around the risks of drinking while pregnant. The research is showing that the bulk of the FAS cases are happening because women are drinking in the first trimester, which is the most dangerous period for a child, and unfortunately many women who fall pregnant, they're not immediately aware that they're pregnant. So South Africa's got a serious problem in that respect, because unlike other countries where there is very heavy drinking happening among the female population, we have the combined problem of very low body weight among the affected population. Many of the women on farms have very low body mass, and it makes them very vulnerable to the effects of FAS. Whereas, if a woman with a healthy diet and a healthy body weight are able to better absorb the toxicity of alcohol, and it has less of an impact on the unborn child. So in South Africa, we are uniquely vulnerable because of that combination of factors. So I think the key thing is also ensuring that we get nutrition into these areas, along with awareness programs. But I think, I don't know if Ms. Wilson would like to speak a bit more on the FAST programs.
Yeah, we don't do it alone. We do it in partnership with the Department of Health in terms of the road to health and prenatal care. Because these children, unfortunately, also are born with a lot of need for interventions, which is more on a medical level and then on an educational level. We found that there is certain hotspots in terms of FAS, which is mostly in the Drakensberg, Paarl, Wellington area. And therefore, our service providers are also then, that we fund us, also then situated in that area.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. And the question, the second question from Honourable Chairperson was around the efforts to reduce vulnerability through parenting programs and so on, and to what extent we market this. I think the parenting programs and family interventions that DSD runs, we've always been running these programs. We run them as part of what our social workers do during the course of their services in communities. But also we are now expanding that slightly because of the extra funds we've got. So I think there'll be more awareness around that with the additional funding. And of course, it's been announced as well as something that we intended to do in the budget speeches and so on. But I think in communities where these programs are run, the attendance is generally quite good. But what we do find as well is that we often end up preaching to the converted. The difficulty is getting parents that need that the most to actually come. So one of the things we've looked at now is to add some food provision together with it as a kind of incentive as well for people to come, because it gives them something to eat while they're participating, and it encourages people to keep coming back to those programs. So we'll see how that goes. Because previously we didn't have that, and so a lot of people who were particularly vulnerable and poor, they couldn't really come because they didn't have any means of getting there. When they don't, there's nothing for them to eat. They just can't. They don't have the time to come and do this stuff when they're just trying to survive. So we're just trying to make it a little bit easier and more to incentivize it. But I think also to say that these programs, you get different types of these programs. Some of them are what the social workers do all the time. If there's a vulnerable family, sometimes the court will order them to do a parenting program with the parents because the parents are potentially okay to continue to care for the child, but they need some assistance and support. So the court, if it doesn't actually want to remove the child from their care, can do that. But I think in terms of marketing of our services, I mean, we are a pretty small department, so we're not going to have a presence that's felt on the ground in every community in the way that maybe education or health will. We are about, we're about what, 2,500 people. Yeah, compared to 35,000. So, yeah. But yeah, I guess so the other question about victims of GBV accessing psychosocial services, I'll ask Ms. Wilson to speak to what
Ms.
those
Wilson,
are.
I give you 1.5 minutes.
Thanks.
There's a reason why I will explain now when you're done.
I hope it's food related. Psychosocial is anything that relates to the well-being of a person in terms of therapeutic as well as social disruption that the person experienced, and therefore social work from social development supports the person throughout the process of GBV, being a victim, from creating safe spaces, therapeutic interventions, skills development, reintegration, court support services, all of that related things.
Thank you so much. Look, the reason why I made that point is we need to break for plus minus 10 to 15 minutes quickly. We need to do justice also to the catering staff. They normally complain, no one come and drink, they waste their time, and that's already before procurement department decide to stop that practice. Let's go and have a quick cup of coffee. Let's go also have a body break and that sort of thing. And Ms. Patel, sorry, when you speak, I was quickly looking at my cell phone to look at when can we stop for the break, for our tea break. That's why I was on my phone. Sorry for that. Okay, let's do that. 15 minutes, quarter to, we're back.
Outros em processos. Assilar alguns.
chamber. Please return to the chamber, please. Thank you for the break. Let me get into it immediately before the HOD answer. From my side with regard to up to page 302, I just want to add a last question from my side. One can ask such a lot of issues and that sort of thing, but it's fine. I'm very worried about the attacks you made reference to on social work professionals. I think on page 302, right there in the middle, you are very worried and concerned about the increasing incidence of attacks on social work professionals while executing their duties, and how that will negatively affect services. Could you elaborate on that? The severity of the attacks, where it is happening, which areas, etc., because it seems to me it's a similar trend one pick up as with the EMS services. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. So the outstanding questions from the previous round, I'll start with those. The outcomes of the GBV summit. What was the outcome of the summit? The summit was held to basically do two things. One was to ensure we could get some inputs around our provincial GBV implementation plan in terms of where we might need to improve, amend, etc., because the plan had been in operation for a year already, which we did get a lot of useful inputs from the stakeholders. And then secondly, also to prepare and get inputs from stakeholders towards the national summit. And the National Summit, of course, was also structured around the National Strategic Plan on GBV. So the outcome was then that those inputs from our summit formed a quite lengthy report that was then taken to the National Summit with all of the inputs from our summit. All provinces did this, and then we also took those inputs and used them to inform some of the amendments and updating of the NSP for the province implementation plan. The question around child protection and sorry, Chair, I was actually, I'm not clear what that question was on child protection again. Could you maybe just repeat what that was? I took some notes, but I couldn't hear properly. Okay. And someone else maybe hear it better than I did? Okay, yeah, I think I don't know.
It's about the shelters and whether the shelters were...
All shelters are funded.
Oh, that's a shelter. That was shelters. Shelters was the next one, yeah. The 26 funded GBV shelters, or whether they're in operation, and yes, they are all in operation. The question on the severity or the nature of the attacks on social workers, we fortunately haven't had any fatalities yet. We've had a number of hijackings of vehicles, particularly vehicles transporting our facility staff, because they use quantums for those things, and so they're becoming a target for hijackers. In addition to that, we've had a number of instances where our social workers have gone into areas and then their cars have been stoned or they've been surrounded and threatened and assaulted, or also robbed of their cell phones and other things. And we've also had a number of government garage vehicles now recently stolen from our Khayelitsha office through some syndicate that seems to know the insides operations, because they got in and got the keys for the cars, disabled the trackers and made the cars disappear very efficiently. But there are certain areas that correspond with the red zones that the EMS teams have been identifying where we are now also encountering problems. So most recently, we had a serious incident in Kosovo, informal settlement, where the local community surrounded the vehicle of 2 female social workers and tried to get them out the car, and they managed to get away, but they were threatened, and it was quite a close call for them. And this was after they'd repeatedly asked the SAPs to go in with them. The SAPs had said they won't go in. They said it's too dangerous for them to go in. And SAPs are actually closing their station in Kosovo because they say it's too dangerous, which of course then leaves us in a very invidious position, because if the police won't go in, how can the social workers go in? They're not armed, they're not equipped, and they're not trained to deal with security situations. So that is a serious problem for us. In other areas, we do have good cooperation with the SAPs, and the SAPs go in with the social workers when the situation is dangerous and they assist. We also have had excellent support from the LEAP officers who have been deployed by the city with the community safety funding. They've also been quite willing to assist the social workers in hotspots. But the social workers are increasingly being targeted, and we are trying to build partnerships just like EMS has done with SAPs and law enforcement. So thank you, Chair.
HOD, thank you very much. Let me see, up to page 302, any further hands, any further comments, people online as well? Let's move on then. 303 to 300 and I think it's 322. Or actually, yeah, that's what it is. Any other hands? There's 2 hands. Christopher Fry, Honourable Member, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have 4 questions. First question on page 305, coupled with page 311, program 2, the 5 million rand earmarked for secure mental health facilities. I'm encouraged by this. Really, I am, because mental health, I sit on the health committee, the health standing committee as well, and I'll be raising the issue of mental health and where it stands in the budget. I just want to know, under what line item on table 9.2 would secure mental health facilities. Where did that 5 million lie? I couldn't find it in the APP as well. So I just want to know under which line item would that have in the sub program. Then page 309, social relief, sub program 2.5, social relief. There's a decrease of 10.9%. Not mistaken? Yeah, 10.89%. There's a decrease there. I want to know why is that? Because especially since we face a test of resilience in our province. The note says to respond to emergency needs identified in communities affected by disasters not declared and or any other social condition resulting in undue hardship. Now, I understand the reasoning behind the note, but I'm concerned that it's not just climatic changes or climatic disasters that we're facing. We can face an ongoing food shortage, like we've outlined earlier, and we can face social disasters as well, in terms of service delivery protests and the like. And we're decreasing that budget. I'm just concerned about that. Page 311, back to 311. Table 9.2.1, non-profit institutions, that's 400,348,000. I just want to know how many MPOs are we funding, and the detail is in the APP, but I couldn't find it. Just wanted to make sure if I'm okay there. And then my last question is on page 317, the table 9.5 for development and research program 5, poverty alleviation and sustainable livelihoods. That's sub-program 5.4. It says to manage social facilitation and poverty for sustainable livelihood programs, including EPWP. Now, the overall program has got a decrease of 17%, but poverty alleviation and sustainable livelihoods is 24%. I'm fear that cut. I know that some places have to be cut, and I get that, but I fear that that's cut too much, especially when we talk about. I know it's only in development and research, but it's for me it's a caveat, because poverty alleviation and fostering sustainable livelihoods is something that we need to do. So I would just like the rationale behind that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable Barkhuphos.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, on page 305, table 8.1, in the development of, in the development and research, I want to know what are the reasons for the budget cuts for program. And I want to move to still to 305, but earmarked allocation on program 2. First, I was not specific on table 8.5. I want to know about program 5. And on the same page in program 2, I want to know about the mental health challenges. Now that we know are worsened by drugs and substance use disorder, how does this budget respond to the challenge? Going further, what is the number of funded rehab centers that we have, and what are the plans to increase them? Lastly, in its response to the PNPs, the SAFs made a call for drug rehab centers to establish in residential households within communities to make them more accessible to the people. What is the department's view, and how will respond to such calls? Moving to page 307 on the program description, program 1 in the administration. Chair, if I am out of order, please forgive me. I am triggered by the latest development in the city where the MMC for Human Settlement has been suspended. His downfall reminds me of MEC Fritz, who was accused of sex for jobs in his department. We never get to the bottom of that road because the committee shielded the department from accountability. We wanted the HOD to appear before the committee. It never happened because he was protected by our own. We still want to know what the HOD knows of Fritz shenanigans in this department and what is being done to prevent reoccurrence. And it is clear now that every time the DA goes to conference, one of its black leaders who are contesting for the leadership position will fall. And after that, there will be no accountability for their mess, like Fritz and now with Mr. Boy.
That is a little bit out of line, Honourable Member. He's not, you said program description, program 1 administration, and what you are saying have no relevance to this.
But I already said, forgive me if I'm out of order.
Yeah, but I'm not going to expect the HOD to answer any of those issues. Skip that. Are you done, Honourable Member? You're done.
No, let's move to 308, table 9.1. Oh, my chair, I love you so much.
That is now all of a sudden.
What are the reasons for the decreased budget for subs program and in 1.3, and how will this affect the service delivery? I really want to understand that. I want to repeat that is in page 308 on table 9.1 in the district management.
Okay, got that.
Yeah, and the last one is on the service to older persons, because that's my passion, old person and GBV. It's what I live for, because I've been an activist since I was very young. Name Mashonet. When I joined social auxiliary worker in 1995, I was 29 years old. And I left there when I was 44 years. So I love working in those areas, most especially when do service deliver. Not that I'm saying you are not doing anything, but we need to push pressure so that you can do more.
Okay.
As I said in table 9.2, page 311, what are the reasons for the decreased budget for the two sub-programs, and how will this affect service delivery, and what is the number of NPOs that will be affected? Yeah, really, for the last one is page 313, table 9.3 on the management and support. What are the reasons for the decreased budget on sub-program 3.1? That was the last question. Before I close, Chairperson, I want to conclude by asking 316, table 9.4 on the substance abuse prevention and rehabilitation. Chairperson,
you may ask, Honourable Member.
Okay, thank you. We all the challenge that we all know what all the challenges that have been set in the app, and this budget about the impact of substance use disorder on youth and society in general. What is the justification of decreasing the budget for substance abuse prevention and rehabilitation? What are the reasons for this budget to cut? That was my last one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. I see Honourable Gillian Bosman, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I'd like to know on page 305, it says that program 4 includes earmarked allocation for face of government. If the department could perhaps expand on what is the face of government, what is that allocation for? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honourable Windvogel.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, mine is on page 3159, table 9.5. I just want to check with the department in the face of rising cost of living and food security, poverty and unemployment. What is the justification for decreasing the budget for poverty alleviation? And what are the reasons for the budget cuts on this program? Then lastly, Chairperson, on page 324, what are the reasons for the increased allocation for advertising in the minor assets, catering, contractors and agency and support, outsource services? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. HOD, Minister, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I'll ask the CFO and his director to speak to the questions from Honourable Member Fry on the mental health 5 million, where it fits, on which line item, as well as the reasons for the decrease in social relief of 10.89, as well as the decrease in EPWP, and then I'll ask Ms. Johnson maybe to speak to the number of NGOs funded in total, and then we'll go on to the next set of questions. But I'll start with those ones, colleagues, if you can assist.
Thank you, through you, Chair. The question on the 5 million, you will find it under the disabilities program, and that will be a transfer payment as a line item. Yeah. Was that the one? Then the one on 309. Question is about the the percentage, right? 10. The tables on 311. Oh, 311, sorry. Yeah. Chair, that is under that program, we also have the sanitary dignitary project, the sanitary tiles. So our funding was a little bit less that we received. We received 11 million. Previously, we had a little bit more.
Yeah. The prior year had a rollover fund of 2 million rand, which we didn't spend in the year before that. That was given to us again. So it increased our base in this current year to 16, and now we're back to the baseline allocation for the new year. Through that process, we could source additional procurement in this current year to buy more of these tiles.
The EPWP reduction.
If I may, CFO. The program 5, I think it was, I've got 3 or 5 reasons for the budget cuts earmarked program 2. The on 3 or 5, there was the cut in program 5, which is development and research. The reduction relates to, in the current year, we got an additional, like the HOD has indicated, an additional 25 million rand for food relief, which we did not get in the new financial year. So our budget was basically reduced from 50 million rand that we have in the current year to 25 million rand in the next financial year. That's the reduction that's reflected by that 17% that you see under program 5.
Thanks, Tim. Just to add.
Can I add on EPWP HOD through you?
Mr. Hill, you can go ahead.
Yeah, EPWP, it's a national incentive grant. Prior year we received 5.3 and this year we received 4.8. So this is a grant on the basis of our participation, meaning how as the province we use own funds to create short-term employment opportunities. So prior year it was more. This current in the year under review it was 4.8. That's the reason for the reduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Yeah, the incentive grant is what we get versus how many opportunities we create. So, and National allocates that grant based on what they have available. So we get that grant every year. We're never quite sure what we're going to get each year. But also to say that reduction that Mr. Holly mentioned, that is a reduction. It's not a reduction as it were, but it's just that we had a 25 million once-off that we're not getting this year. So that was something Treasury gave us last year to assist, but they can't give it to us again. We are still getting 25 million earmarked for food relief, but last year we had 25 million at the beginning of the year, and then they gave us another 25 million in the adjustment. So we never know, we might get another one in the adjustment again if we're lucky. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. But yeah, thanks, colleagues. The other questions were in terms of how many MPOs funded in total. I don't know whether Ms. Johnson has that.
In total, we've got signed agreements with 1,149 NGOs in the province.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. We used to have over 2,000, but of course 1,000 left when ECD moved over to education. So that's changed things a bit. Then the question, colleagues, around the earmarked allocations on Programme 2. I don't know if you want to carry on with those responses. It's from Honourable Member Baku Vos.
Yeah, Chair, I recall that it's the same question around the mental health. Oh, sorry.
Charles, you have a response? Okay.
It's about the ward, the 5 million rand. Yeah. There is joint projects between the Department of Health and Social Development with regards to beneficiaries and clients with intellectual disabilities. So we get various categories. You get mild, moderate, and then you get severe and profound. So the severe and profound are usually clients that's been supported by the Department of Health, and we usually as a department do the mild and moderate. I just need to add that psychiatric patients is not DSD's responsibility. It falls with the Department of Health, because sometimes people do make a mistake by thinking that if a person's got a mental illness, that it is issues that resides by DSD, but psychiatric issues actually resides by Department of Health. Nevertheless, still saying those mandates between the two departments, because the Department of Health runs them or leads the mandate on the Mental Health Act, not DSD. But we do have a role to play as DSD. So right now we're sitting with a situation, and sorry if I make such a long explanation, but it needs to get to why we got the 5 million rand. We got to a position where a lot of clients, there's not accommodation for them. So they go through psychiatric, and specifically children under the age of 18, they go through psychiatric problems. They land up in hospital, they get stabilized. But then they can't return home because part of the problem was at home. And that leaves, unfortunately, the situation also that cannot be placed in foster care or by safety parents, because those parents safety parents don't want to take care of them because of their psychological and psychiatric issues that needs to be stabilized, and they need to drink everyday medication to remain stable. If they don't, then they're back to where they were. So we came up with a concept, myself and the department and Ms. Goosen. We came up with a concept with the Department of Health that have available space at Lentegee Psychiatric Hospital and they call it Ward 78. Ward 78 has accommodation space for plus minus 40 clients. So what we are looking at is that as a joint project, that 5 million rand will be used to set up that ward, plus actually appoint a service provider that's a specialist in caring for clients with psychiatric or children and adolescents to that care for those kind of categories. Because right now what's happening, those children are right now still in hospitals. They're occupying space, which is not fair on the Department of Health. There's a lot of sicknesses that they also pick up if you're staying extendedly and you're actually healthy physically. So yeah, it's become a problem, and this Ward 78, 5 million rand will go towards that. We have started the project. We've got a task team between the two departments. We're looking at actually how quickly can we set up the place for these clients. We've already got a waiting list of at least 10 children that can be placed. So we're looking to hopefully spend this money by this in the next financial year, and already start placing those 10 children as soon as the fourth quarter, January next year. With that 5 million rand, we're first looking at not creating a full bed space of 40, but first start with 20 bed spaces to see how it works and so forth. We, however, do have another model. It's Open Circle. It's another NGO that operates at Alexandra Hospital on that site. That's doing exactly the same function with 30 clients that's living there with psychiatric and mental illnesses and so forth. And it's adults there. That one is specifically adults. But we're looking here at this also at children specifically, and up to maybe youth up till 25. But part of this whole project is that we will have to separate the wards, bar it off, because we do not want the children to mix with the older adults or younger adults. So yeah, that in a nutshell is the position on that 5 million rand. It is a very exciting project. So yeah, we look forward to see how we can implement it. It's going to alleviate a lot of problems for us and the Department of Health. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan. So the question Honourable Member Baka was posing is also the question about the reason for the reduction on program 3.1, also the question was about the reduction of on substance abuse treatment, given the need for those services. I think at a high level, I can say that we reduced funding for training. That was a big part of it. Was there anything else, Ms. Wilson, you'd like to add?
No, we can maintain the current funding through this budget. The reduction, when we had to prioritize, will we do frontline or spend on universities? We chose to, at this stage, halt universities so that we can continue with service delivery.
I think also the treatment programs themselves are continuing to be funded, but the honourable members asked us about whether we plan to expand. We can't at the moment. We just don't have the money to do so. We do understand the need for it, but the increase at the moment for substance abuse, there's nothing. All we can do is sustain what we have for now until there's more money coming into the department. Then the question of what was the reason for decrease on the program in table 9.1, district management. I don't know if you guys would like to take that over. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. The questions raised by the honourable member on page 308, as well as page 311 and 313 and 316 relates to the reduction of the cash allowance that we did not receive. There's a cash allowance that we received due to the non-increase of staff last year that we received. This year going forward, that cash allowance has been taken away. Okay. In total, it's about 40 million that was taken away, and it's just been sort of allocated within the programs in terms of that. So those are basically the reduction in those sub-programs.
Thank you, CFO. Yeah, that was in lieu of a proper increase for public servants last year, as in a percentage increase they just received as cash amount.
That is Honourable Akufos's questions. I think, yeah, you did answer Honourable Fry. You're okay. Okay, can follow. I think then you must still answer Honourable Gillian Bosman
and Windvogel,
the interface of government.
I think also just to say, in terms of the reduction in services to older persons, we didn't mention that yet. The budget reduction, Mr. Jordan, you want to speak to that? Older persons, the impact of the cuts on older persons.
Unfortunately, there has been severe impact on the cuts of the older persons, so it's not very easy to talk about it for me personally. So I feel the same because I've been involved with older persons for 20 years now. It has led to the fact that we have not gotten proper inflation-related budgets, that almost 18 organizations closed down now. And it's predominantly your senior clubs where the gogos go to. It is also 2 old age homes that out of their own accord closed down, but we could accommodate those clients somewhere else. So my biggest concern was the service center, the senior clubs, and it was predominantly in the rural areas. So unfortunately, that's the situation that we're in. We got the same budget this financial year, and because of those people or organizations that exited, we could take that money and we gave it now to the other service centers that's still with us for petrol and transport to get to the clubs in the metro areas and the rural areas. So that's, again, the one positive on the other side. But it is a concern for me that the footprint this province have on older persons in the rural areas with regarding to support and care services is reducing at a rapid rate. So that's unfortunately what the budget has implications on. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. And then the question from Honourable Member Bosman, the face of government. That is an allocation that was made, a once-off allocation that was made to us by Treasury. We were informed that there is an amount that the Premier would like the front-facing departments to use to improve the quality of accommodation of the front-facing offices so that clients have good access to an acceptable standard of office space when they come to this provincial government. So it will cover things like proper cleaning up of offices, making sure that they're in a decent state, making sure that there is proper access ways and so on, signage and so forth. So it's about the making sure the offices are in a suitable condition, that they don't pose a risk for anyone reputationally in terms of the quality of the client's experience.
Thank you.
So we will be using it to improve some of our more poor quality local offices and so on, that will provide, I think, better accommodation also to the staff who work with clients. So that's a once-off. It's mostly going to be for infrastructure type work. For the question from Honourable Member Windvogel, the reason for reducing the budget for poverty alleviation, that's the 25 million once-off. So again, it's the issue of that we got 25 million extra from Treasury last year as a once-off, which is not in this budget. So it looks like a reduction, but it actually takes us to the same level we were before we got that once-off amount. But it may be that we get more money in the adjustment again, like we did last year. So we're not sure yet. The increased allocations on marketing, catering, and so on, I think, is to do with the inflation-related increases to contracts, etc., etc. I'll ask the CFO and his colleagues to speak to that.
Thank you. Through your chair, advertisements, the increase is mainly because of the more posts that we need to fill in this year. we've got some additional posts, also more funded posts. So the adverts that we need to place for that recruitment, as well as statutory adverts that we must do. And this is also linked to our communication plan that we need to advertise. In terms of catering, again, that's the increase in the engagements and the programs in the region. There is a 5 million that has been given in addition to the parenting programs, and that will also increase our catering budget in terms of that. And then on agency and support, the outsourced services, our facilities will now operate full capacity in terms of the appointment of the new service provider at Sevieli, a new dorm. In the current financial year, we didn't fully capacitate that facility. Now with the new budget, we will have to then also cater for the new dorm in terms of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable. Let me get back to Honourable Gillian Bosman quickly. You're happy with that question about the interface?
Yes, Chairperson, very happy, thank you.
Very happy, thank you very much. Honourable Kasim, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to go to page 315. I see the report on the registered residential facilities complying with the Child Justice Act for youth or children who was sentenced. On the issue of troubled youth, this could back me. Are there any funds located for programs for youth who find themselves in prison, like programs to better their lives while they're currently serving the time in prison before actually being released? And of 3 cases of 17-year-olds who were involved in a murder case, among other cases, and they released a few months later, only to find themselves doing the exact same thing and back into prison again. So how do the department ensure that these youth are ready to walk the streets again? Are the funds allocated for programs to prepare them before releasing them? Thank you.
I think you do have the, yeah.
We are one of the 3 parties involved with children in conflict with the law. While a child is with us, for that duration, as I previously indicated, they receive quite holistic interventions, both crime-specific and crime-related, as well as the developmental programs in terms of sports, education, and so forth. And we see quite a huge impact in terms of sentenced youth, which are placed with us longer. Unfortunately, the courts have to base their detention on evidence. So if there's a lack of evidence and the police couldn't properly present the case and the NPA, that child will be discharged from care. He can't be detained without the necessary evidence, and that may lead then to a quick release and then reoffending.
Thank you. I think that is the answer to that one. Honourable Kasim, you're happy with that?
Okay, now I'm happy with that. Can I just do a follow-up question? Is there any follow-ups with these youth after they are released, even though you speak about the decision being based on the court? Is there follow-up from the department side as well, or how is the department involved to ensure that there are follow-ups to check up on the youth and to continue those programs?
In terms of the Mandela rules on detention of children and the subsequent aftercare to children, it can be easily viewed as a presumption of guilt when we keep on delivering services to a child that is not found to be guilty of such an offence and have been discharged. However, if you look at our indicators under restorative services, there's about 1,300 children that we are viewed as children at risk, which we do engage in aftercare programs, but that is on a voluntary basis. There's no way that, unfortunately, we can enforce that because the child is not guilty of anything. So we don't have a court order that mandate that child then to be engaged, which places in a dilemma. It's different from a child in need of care and protection, where it's more family bound and the child is at legal risk of care. But in terms of children in conflict with the law, they're quite protected as not to be victimized and may have a presumption of guilt.
Thank you for that detailed answer. May I ask the members for this round up to page 322, any further questions, any further remarks? Honourable Fry.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just have two, and possibly it's going to be a resolution, the second one. But I'd like to follow up on the sanitary towns. It's a matter that's close to my heart because I have two young ladies who are no longer young girls. Pray for me. But anyway, I see on page 38 that we are giving out 26,215 boxes of sanitary towels. We, in the church that I'm involved in, someone left the church quite a lot of money, not 14 million, but we are donating about 150 boxes every year or every 6 months or something to schools in need. And then there's the other, the NGO, I forget their name now. They're also involved in the 1 million pad thing, if I remember correctly. Clearly, it's not enough. So I just want to put it on the record that I understand the constraints in which the department is, and I appreciate that. But let's just keep in mind that it's not enough. The second thing is I'm very intrigued by Ward 78, and I think the resolution that I would like to put forward is that we actually go visit, either us or the Department of Health, go visit Lenteghe Hospital again, looking specifically at Ward 78. I'd like to see how that 5 million is actually spent, because mental health is also close to my heart. And I know I'm aware of Alexandra Hospital. Unfortunately, it is in my constituency, and I was invited there, but I had a budget meeting on my department, so I couldn't attend. But I think I'm going to visit Alexandra Hospital myself, because there was a contestation that the 30 people that they have, and the other part, the ward council told me that the other part is 15, and they're getting like 14 million or something crazy. I'm not sure about the detail, but I'd like to see the 30-bed ward in Alexandra Hospital as well. So I'm just saying, I'd like to put it on record that I'd love to see the work that's been done there. Thank you.
Please.
Do you want to speak to that, Charles?
No, I think it's a very good idea if member can just give us a little bit of time on Ward 78, because I'm starting my own site visits only within the next month or two. So, but I think if you communicate via, we'll definitely would like you to come and have a look. On Open Circle, it's a property building on Alexander that's been converted in a double-story house kind of thing. So it's a very nice concept, actually. But I think it would be great if you go and have a look. It's very special services that they render there. Yeah.
Darcy, thank you so much. Online, Honourable Bosman, Honourable Kasim, any comments from your side? Last question, last remark? No, nothing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me say.
Now that you are saying remark, because I don't have a question, but I have a remark or comment. You know, we prioritize condoms too much. Let's prioritize even sanitary towels. We give free condoms, let's give free sanitary towels.
Note that. Thank you, Honourable Member. Baku Force. Page 323 to 335 is only annexes. May I ask the members if there's any comment out of that, any remark out of that, any question out of that? I don't see any hands online, and the members down here, heads goes like that, so they got no comment with regard to the annexes. Okay, let me at this point in time then ask the Honourable, I call him Honourable, I know him for a long time, so he, Mr. Sylvester, the only member of the public representing Heideveld. Any question from your side?
Good evening, would I say? Good evening, everybody. And I'm Leslie Andrew Sylvester from the Heideveld Cluster Health Committee. I'm quite honored being called Honorable Sylvester.
We are all honorable, my friend.
Yeah.
All of us.
Thank you. I don't know, these questions or these points I wanted to ask might have been...
Even if you want to make a remark, you are most welcome to do that, not necessarily a question.
Yeah. I'm very concerned about SASSA and our agents and our GBV. I'm also very passionate, like Honorable Forster has said, about the agents. It's very close to my heart because we are all agents sitting here. I think so. The last meeting that we had, stakeholders meeting, was held on the 27th of September 2017. That was way before COVID. I can understand that nothing has happened then, but I mean, COVID is now finished, not finished, quite out of our country, but it's still there. But we need to engage with stakeholders. SASSA must call meetings so that before we have to have every quarterly meetings. And it was very successful because we can engage with our community and other NGOs, and we explain and we did awareness. I don't see that anymore. I'm concerned and I'm worried about that our people don't know what to do because of this new thing or the myth, I don't know if you call it a myth, about the SASSA cards expiring dates. Our agents are totally confused, asking questions to group chats and things like that. The children ask and all that. There's no awareness being really indicated of where these people can go. I had a personal experience, now you know my age too, a personal experience in March the 2nd, when I went to fetch my pension, and then I was told that my pension was declined to get my money. So the ShopRite referred me to SASSA. So I immediately went because I need my money. And I went to SASSA and I was approached by the security, SASSA Athlon, by the security and said to me, I mustn't come there now. They won't be able to help me, and refer me to the post office. And I went to the post office, my wife and I, and she has a disability by standing in queues, and the queues was from the post office to Egypt. I'm not exaggerating, but that's how long it was. And there were a lot of senior people standing in the heat, and that was 36 degrees that day. The second, you can check it up with the weather reports, that it was 36 degrees, and our people were standing in pain and agony, waiting for the people to be served and addressed by the post office. The doors was closed, 10 people have to go in at a time, but the processes was so long because you could see there was like 2 tellers and the manager was running up and down, and then you don't see the manager for a while, the post office manager for a while, then he comes out and have a conversation with the people in the queue. And I mean, really, our people is suffering because there's no communication and awareness of and a direction for our people to go to. So that is about the SASSA. The street children I've also experienced in Vangate Mall in Athlone. I live in Bridgetown. So I drive there There is so many street children, God forbid, and small children, I think they 3, 4, with the eldest or sister or brother at the corner of that robot, the 4-section robots. They ain't got drive. And then you see the parent, and then you don't see the parent. Then you see the parent and standing on the other side of the road, and the children begging, asking for money. That's my concern, because with all these things of GBV and the kidnapping of children, it's a major concern. I just need to know, is there an entity where they can look at these where the area I just identified and do something about it? Because I don't see a metro police, I don't see police, I don't see nobody around speaking to these children. The other thing is about the food parcels. The food relief parcels has never, ever sit well with me and with us as a community, because I remember in COVID's time, I also, because things are hard, and as you know, it's difficult to survive, and everybody's suffering from survival to survive. And I have online, registered also for a food parcel for my family. And up till today, they acknowledge receiving my email, but they will come back to me. Nothing has been happening. So I feel so broken, because there's no communication whatsoever. We all have needs, different kind of needs. And we must look at our people, really. I don't want to get emotional, and I just want that communication must be there, so that we can filter down to our people and tell our people where and which direction they must go. The other thing is what my passion is about, that I wish that this, in all provinces, that service that we are discussing here now today, that it's get done to the best of the ability of the department, because really we all are in this one thing. And again, I feel we should do more awareness and engage with our community and have these stakeholders meeting. The last one is social workers. I just need to know, what is the ratio of social workers in the province? Because I remember a couple of years back, there was hardly any social workers, and they were loaded with so much work that they don't know whether they're Arthur or Martha. I do thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sylvester. I think, can you just put down your...
Sorry.
Yeah, the department can answer for themselves, but I think you pick up in the report and during the discussion, the appointment of, I think, over 200 and 40 plus minus new social workers. That will alleviate the social worker plight tremendously. But Honourable HODN Minister, is for the two of you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to attempt to respond to Mr. Sylvester's concern regarding SASSA. SASSA is a national entity, and I have personally conducted oversight visits. I went to Delft at 6 o'clock one morning, and at Delft they turned me away and said all the satellite offices are closed. They referred me to the Bellville office, and there I too experienced very hostile security, who, until I introduced myself, then suddenly changed their tune. I also visited Athlone SASSA at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it is concerning that SASSA staff themselves have now reached out to social development in the Western Cape to ask for support, because their requests regarding resourcing, funding, staff, whatever it might be, they are not receiving the necessary responses. We have in the ministry a dedicated official who deals solely with SASSA inquiries on behalf of the public, because irrespective of where you live, you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. But I can say to Mr. Sylvester, whilst I was at Athlone Sassa, they called me to the post office and people came out of the post office crying because they had zero balances reflected on their account. I had a woman from Elite store who had packed a trolley, and when she got to the till to pay for her groceries, she couldn't pay because there was 8 rand in her account. So these are the detail. We get the ID numbers, the detail. We escalate that. We have since had a meeting with SASSA Western Cape Management, and they are under new leadership now. There's an acting manager, but they've accepted that we are trying to assist them. So hopefully we will have a follow-up meeting towards the end of April. My biggest concern is that I have flagged this at a national level, and I don't believe it's receiving the attention that it deserves. The impact on DSD is that when members or when beneficiaries do not receive their grants, they call us for food parcels because they are in distress. And so we have asked SASSA, well, I've asked them, they have actually discontinued food parcels when they introduced the SRD 350. And Chair, in the interest of time, I'm not going to share all the content of the detail, but it does seem as if it is a national problem. It is not limited to the Western Cape only. The next big challenge is that if you have a gold card, you need expiring up until the 31st of March, you would need to go to a South African post office. Yet we know that there are 81, something like 81 post offices that have been closed. So there are huge challenges, and unfortunately, we are working with, or fortunately, we are working with our counterparts in the Western Cape to try and ensure that the 1.6 million beneficiaries in this province are assisted. But we are now seeing other provinces reaching out to us to ask for support. We have in fact had a member of SASSA call us to ask to get through to SASSA. That is how insane and dysfunctional it has become. So the situation is dire. It affects quite a few beneficiaries. There are, I think, 18 million people on grants and 11 million who are on SRD 350. And sadly, many don't get the SRD 350 every month. They might get 3 tranches in one go, which takes them over the 650 of the means test. Then they get bombed out and they have to start the entire process all over again. And so for this team of people, this is a huge challenge. And I have asked SASSA to reintroduce food parcels, revisit their policy. But again, it is something that I and Dr. MacDonald would have to take up at a national meeting with the national minister and all the other provinces, because the situation as far as SASSA goes, in my opinion, is dire, and we are staring a humanitarian crisis in the face. I've had people call me to borrow them 350 until they receive their SRD. I've had a man call me who was drinking sugar water for 4 days whilst waiting on his SRD. So the situation is bleak, and every single one of these officials here experience these calls daily. So we are really standing in the gap, and I think it's important that I also acknowledge civil society and our stakeholder partners who have all come to the party, but we have now reached a stage where I have asked the Premier to flag this at a national level with the President, because this level of dysfunction is completely unacceptable, in my opinion. I will, Chair, ask the officials to answer the rest of the questions, but I do want to say that I have had personal first-hand experience. I went out there to see for myself, and I can also indicate I was on a radio show from 10 o'clock one evening until 11:30. It was a national radio show, and many callers, whether it was Shoshanguve, wherever it was across this country, concurred that what I was saying in my interview is actually happening in their provinces. Yeah. Thank you, Chairperson.
Briefly, HOD.
Briefly, Chairperson, yeah, I think on the issue of children on the street, it's, as we mentioned earlier on, it's a huge concern for us. I think the difficulty is particularly where finding enough space to contain them, and also the legality of removing them when they're with a caregiver. But we have removed many of these children. I think the best thing is to report these children to us. And if there's children who are particularly small, we prioritize those children to be removed, because they are the ones who are the most vulnerable and most at risk. But yeah, we would welcome those reports being sent to us.
Mr. Sylvester, you got that message from the head of the department. I could see you. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Can I close you down for now? Thank you so much. Let me use the opportunity then to say this is the end of Vote 7 discussion for the officials. The honourable members must stay behind for us to officially conclude our business. You may go, you may enjoy the rest of your Friday evening, your weekend. All of the best. See you on Monday again, back at the office. And if there's overtime sheets to be signed, the HOD and the minister will sign that. I withdraw immediately what I'm saying.
Chair, I know the meeting has been adjourned, but I do want to say thank you to the team of officials who, like you said, beyond overtime. They don't understand the meaning of the word overtime because they're at it 24/7 and they work relentlessly to make a difference. So thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Patiently. Thank you, officials. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
But I must ask you to exit. Dankie, Minister. I've got a couple. No problem, ma'am. We're waiting for you to exit. Thank you for your time, whole afternoon, but I think we've done well as a committee. And let me ask the members if there are any resolutions, requests for information, recommendations. Please, it is now your opportunity to come up with any resolutions. There's two hands, first Baku Vos, and then Fry. Honourable Baku, you may go.
Chairperson, thank you very much. First, I would like us to go and visit Mamu Cynthia, because I'm speaking to her daughter, or her sister's daughter now, even now. She's still staying there.
Okay.
And we are facing winter. That's
it might not be for the whole committee to visit.
Yeah.
I myself and one or two members could accompany you if you're okay with that.
Okay, no, it's fine. No problem. Because I thought when we are going to Toast River, we are passing Ceres anyway. But if
yeah. I will be in touch with you.
Yeah, let's check. And secondly, Chairperson, I didn't want to say much about SASSA thing, but I think we need to do the follow-up, Chairperson, regardless it's national or what, but we are here to serve our people. So I think we need to call in SASSA.
Yeah.
So that they can, because really each and every one of us, we are getting calls left and right and center. People
Doesn't matter
get their
where
money.
you belong to, everybody is suffering.
Yes. So that's my concern, and that's my recommendation. And lastly, Chairperson, in this thing of
when your mind comes back, before we end up, you can raise that again. Honourable Fry?
Chair, two things. I just want to make sure that my resolution for the hospital visits are noted. We'll liaise with Mr. Jordan regarding Ward 78, but maybe if some of us can go to Alexandra Hospital, maybe it will be outside the program. You know, if it's an informal visit, you know, we can arrange that. Yeah. And Chair, may I ask for your indulgence that we put the vote to the committee now, or do we have to come back to put the vote and do the draft report now?
We can do everything now.
Yeah.
Okay. May I get online, Honourable Gillian Bosman? Nothing from your side.
Nothing from my side, Chairperson.
Thank you. I need your assistance now. You need to guide me. I've got a number of possible recommendations I regard as important. The attacks on social workers. I think we need to get the department to tell us how they deal with it, how they handle it. That for me is a major issue. Our social workers need to understand that we address the issue and we don't sweep it or just note it and sweep it under the carpet. I think that for me is important. And then malnutrition and food insecurity. I pick it up on other pages as well. It is mentioned 7-8 times in the report. So it means for the department it is a major issue. And I think as a committee we need to note that. And then we need to get another one from my side. We need to get a sense of, I'm not sure if I heard the officials correctly, the closing down of farms. That we get from, what is that department's name, agriculture. That we call them in, that we get a sense of what's happening there, what is happening to the poor farm workers. It is, for me, very important that we focus on that. And then reduce the vulnerability of families at risk by developing evidence-based interventions for parents, caregivers, and families. What is it the department are talking about, that they come and speak to us specifically to that issue? And then the next one, over 17,900 victims of GBV access psychosocial support services. It's a mammoth of an amount of GBV victims. How is that accessing done, and what is the outcome of that? That we get some much more information pertaining to that. And then the last issue, the vulnerability of older persons services in rural areas. That we a bit focus on that, the staff members that are dealing with rural areas, that they come and talk to us. How are you dealing with older person services in the rural areas? I think the message we received this afternoon is that it is dire, it is problematic, and that sort of thing. Okay, I think that is it. Guys, are you in agreement with that? Okay, everybody down here in agreement. And let me then say, while we have done the resolutions and the recommendations. I'm very happy with that. Adoption and consideration of the committee report on vote 7, social development. The chairperson should table the committee report and read it as follows. So let me do that. Report of the Standing Committee on Social Development on vote 7, social development in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2/2023, dated 17 March 2023 as follows. The Standing Committee on Social Development, having deliberated on the subject of vote 7, social development in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2/2023, referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that the committee supports or does not support the vote. The chairperson to ask come again?
No.
Am I?
No, you're okay.
The chairperson to ask if the committee supports or does not support the vote. Can I get a sense?
Chairperson?
Honourable Gillian?
Chairperson, I propose that we adopt the report and that the committee supports the bill on the vote.
Good. Thanks for that. May I get, are there a seconder? I'm going to be with you, Honourable Member, right now. Honourable.
I second that recommendation by Member Bosman.
Bosman, Honourable Fry, second that. Honourable Baku Force.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, as the ANC, we don't support the bill. A reason why is because, as I said before, we are here for service delivery. So as long we don't meet the needs of our people, I will not support the bill. Thank you very much.
I understand that. If another party does not support the vote, the chairperson should ask if that is a minority view. So can I take it that that is your minority view, Honourable Baku Force?
Yes, Chairperson.
Should be, the minority view should be included in the report. That is exactly what is going to happen. And then let me say the chairperson reads the report again with a minority view as follows. Report of the Standing Committee on Social Development on vote 7, social development in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2/2023, dated 17 March 2023 as follows. The Standing Committee on Social Development, having deliberated on the subject of vote 7, social development in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2/2023, referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that the committee supports the vote. So we have a majority of committee members supporting the vote. That one is then supported and through. In terms of, let me just read the minority view as well. In terms of Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed their minority view to not support the vote. The committee report supports the vote with a minority view of the ANC. So that is what it is. That is then done. Thank you. And Honourable Fry.
Sorry, I didn't know. I wasn't sure if you finished reading the report.
Okay. So the report then is adopted. Thank you.
For procedural sake, I move that we adopt the report.
Thank you.
As tabled.
You move that we adopt the report. Honourable Gillian Bosman, you support that?
I second that, Chair.
Second that. Thank you so much. That is then done. All the official procedural issues then pertaining to vote 7 is done. Finish. The meeting then is adjourned. Thank you. Look, Baku